Lila had always lived a quiet and simple life. She worked at a small cafe in her town, serving coffee and pastries to the usual crowd of regulars. Life had a comfortable rhythm. Early mornings preparing breakfast, afternoons cleaning tables, evenings closing the cafe doors. It wasn't glamorous and she didn't want it to be. Lila liked her peaceful routine. Music had always been part of her life, but it was something she experienced in the privacy of her home. She loved humming along to songs on the radio and sometimes strummed an old keyboard her father had left her. But she had never learned formally. The piano in the corner of her living room was more like a decorative piece than a serious instrument. One crisp autumn morning, Lila was asked to run an errand in the city. The cafe owner had requested she pick up some special ingredients from a supplier, and Lila, as always, agreed without complaint. She enjoyed the little adventures that took her outside her familiar town streets. That day she wore her favorite wool scarf, a soft beige one that smelled faintly of her grandmother's perfume. Her boots crunched softly against the fallen leaves as she made her way down the crowded city streets. The city was busier than usual. People rushed past her, carrying bags and talking on phones, a symphony of footsteps and chatter. Lila felt a little out of place, but she loved watching the world move around her. It was like seeing a different kind of life, fast and loud compared to her quiet town. As she walked, a gleaming building caught her eye. The tall, grand music hall stood proudly on the corner, its polished glass reflecting the morning sun. She had passed it many times before, but had never gone inside. Today something drew her to it. Curiosity got the better of her. Lila pushed open the heavy doors and stepped into the hall. The interior was vast and beautiful. Rows of seats stretched up toward the ceiling, and the walls were adorned with golden carvings and chandeliers that sparkled in the sunlight streaming through the windows. She felt a little like she had walked into a dream. The scent of polished wood and fresh flowers filled the air. From the far end of the hall, she could hear the soft, precise sound of a piano being played. Her heart skipped a beat. She recognized the music immediately. It was rich, full, and alive. She moved closer, peeking around a corner, and saw him. The famous pianist was there rehearsing. He was tall, elegant, and moved with a confidence that filled the room. His fingers danced across the keys, and every note seemed to float effortlessly through the air. People often described his music as magical, but seeing it in person, Lila felt it like magic herself, warming her chest and making her breath catch. She didn't mean to stay so long, but she couldn't look away. Something about the way he played made her heart ache with longing. She remembered the old piano at home, and a tiny thought crossed her mind. What if she could play like that? Of course, she laughed at the idea. She had no training, no skill. She only dreamed quietly in her small apartment, her fingers tapping absent melodies on imaginary keys. The pianist suddenly stopped. Lila froze, thinking she had been caught staring. But instead of scolding her, he looked at her with a curious smile. It wasn't warm exactly. It was the kind of smile that had a little mischief in it, a spark that suggested he enjoyed surprises. He walked over slowly, his polished shoes clicking against the floor. "You," he said, pointing a finger at her. "Yes, you. Do you play the piano?" Lila blinked, startled. Not really," she stammered. "I mean, I can try a little, but I've never had lessons." The pianist's smile grew wider, almost teasing. "Oh, really? Well, come here then. Let's see what you've got." Lila's face turned bright red. She shook her head, waving her hands. No, it's just a joke." "I wouldn't know what to do." The pianist chuckled. "A joke? Don't be shy. I like a little challenge. Step up to the piano. I promise no one will laugh." Much. Lila hesitated. Her mind raced. She could feel the heat in her cheeks. She had never played in front of anyone, especially not a world-famous pianist. Her hands trembled slightly as she approached the grand piano. The polished black surface gleamed under the lights, the white and black keys stretching out like a promise she wasn't sure she could keep. She ran her fingers nervously over the keys, feeling the smooth, cold surface under her fingertips. "Just play anything you like," he said with a smirk, stepping back slightly. "Let's see what happens." Lila closed her eyes for a moment. She tried to remember the small tunes she had picked up from listening to the radio, songs she had hummed to herself late at night. She pressed a few keys hesitantly. The notes sounded clumsy, awkward, and off. She winced, expecting laughter, expecting embarrassment, expecting him to shake his head and dismiss her entirely. But then something strange happened. A tiny spark of rhythm clicked in her mind. She pressed another note, then another, and her fingers began to move almost without thinking. The music she was creating wasn't perfect, not even close, but there was a sense of flow, of instinct, of something raw and alive. The pianist paused, his eyebrows raising slightly. He leaned on the piano and listened more intently. Lila's nervousness started to melt away as the music carried her. She didn't know the names of the notes she was playing. She didn't know any formal technique. She only knew the feeling in her chest, the rhythm that seemed to pulse through her veins, guiding her fingers. The sounds were imperfect, but there was beauty in them. There was a story hidden in the clumsy melodies, and for the first time Lila felt herself telling it. The pianist watched silently. His smirk had disappeared, replaced by genuine intrigue. There was something in the way Lila played that he hadn't expected, something that couldn't be taught or forced. Her fingers danced in a way that was unpolished yet expressive, instinctive yet surprisingly harmonious. Every note carried a piece of her soul, and it resonated in the grand hall. A few of the staff who had been quietly observing her performance exchanged glances. At first they had expected a laugh, a brief moment of awkwardness that would end quickly. But as Lila continued, they couldn't hide their astonishment. The room, which had felt so formal and intimidating moments ago, seemed to warm around her, responding to the emotion in her music. By the time Lila finished her impromptu performance, there was a silence that filled the hall. No one moved. The pianist, who had started the moment thinking this was a joke, finally spoke. "You have an extraordinary talent," he said, almost softly, as if afraid to break the spell. Lila's face flushed even more. She shook her head, embarrassed. I don't know. I've never done this before." He stepped closer, his eyes studying her carefully. "I've seen many pianists in my life, and I can tell when someone has something special. You have that. It's rare. Very rare." She could hardly believe what she was hearing. Her hand still hovered over the keys, tingling with the memory of the notes she had just played. She had come here thinking she would just watch, thinking she would be a small, unnoticed part of someone else's world. Instead, she had discovered something she didn't even know existed inside her. People started clapping softly, not wanting to break the moment entirely, but enough to show their appreciation. The pianist gave her an approving nod, a mixture of respect and astonishment in his eyes. Lila, still nervous, finally smiled. It was shy, uncertain, but it was there. She had faced her fear, and somehow she had created something beautiful. The pianist laughed quietly, shaking his head. "Well, that was unexpected. You've shocked me completely. I didn't think a simple visitor would play like that." Lila's laugh was soft, embarrassed. I guess I surprised myself too." He gestured to her. "Come on, don't hide this talent. It's too rare to waste. I want you to come back tomorrow. Let's see what else you can do." Lila hesitated. She thought about her simple life, about the cafe, about her quiet days. Could she really step into a world so different from her own? But then she remembered the feeling she had had while playing, the thrill, the excitement, the sense that she had finally found a place where her heart could speak. She nodded slowly. "Okay, I'll come." As she left the hall that day, the sounds of the city felt different. The wind in the trees, the chatter of passers-by, even the distant horns of traffic seemed to hum along with the music she had just created. Lila walked back to her errands with a strange new sense of purpose. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing for certain. Something inside her had awakened, and there was no turning back now. The next morning, Lila woke up with a fluttering feeling in her chest. The sun peeked through the curtains, painting golden lines on the floor, but she barely noticed. Her mind was alive with the memory of yesterday, the strange mix of embarrassment, excitement, and awe that had consumed her. She had agreed to return to the music hall at the pianist's invitation, and the thought both thrilled and terrified her. She dressed carefully, choosing a soft green sweater and simple skirt, something comfortable but not too plain, wanting to feel herself without drawing too much attention. Walking through the city streets, Lila's thoughts raced. She remembered how awkward her first attempt at playing the piano had been, yet also how her fingers had somehow found their way to creating something beautiful. She had never felt such a rush of emotion in her life, a combination of fear, wonder, and joy all tangled together. The memory made her fingers itch to play again. When she arrived at the hall, she noticed that it was already buzzing with activity. Staff moved quickly, adjusting chairs, tuning pianos, and preparing the stage. Lila felt a twinge of nervousness. This was a world far bigger and more formal than her small cafe, and she couldn't help feeling out of place. But as she stepped inside, the familiar smell of polished wood and music washed over her, calming her slightly. The pianist was already at the grand piano, practicing with a focused intensity that made Lila's heart skip. When he noticed her, his eyes lit up with that familiar mix of amusement and intrigue. He walked over, not with the teasing smirk of yesterday, but with a serious, almost protective gaze. "Good morning," he said, his voice smooth and confident. "I hope you are ready. Today we will see what you can really do." Lila nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. I'll try my best," she said softly. He motioned for her to sit at the piano. "There is no pressure. Just play what you feel." As she settled into the seat, Lila felt a wave of nerves wash over her. She took a deep breath, closing her eyes for a moment, and let her fingers hover over the keys. Today it felt different. She wasn't just playing for herself or for a passing glance. She was playing for someone who had recognized something she hadn't even known existed within her. The responsibility and the excitement made her stomach flutter. At first, her fingers trembled, hitting uncertain notes, unsure of the rhythm. But the pianist didn't interrupt. He simply observed, occasionally nodding in quiet approval. Lila began to relax, allowing her instincts to guide her. The melody she produced wasn't perfect, but it had a purity and a raw emotion that surprised even her. She could feel the music rising inside her, each note carrying a piece of her story, her heart, and her quiet life. After a while, the pianist spoke. "Now I want you to try something new. Play a short piece I will teach you, then we will add your own twist. Don't worry about mistakes. I want to see your own interpretation." He handed her a sheet of music. Lila looked at the notes, feeling a bit intimidated. The lines and symbols seemed complex, a language she didn't fully understand. But the pianist's reassuring smile gave her courage. "Just follow my guidance," he said. "You will be surprised at what you can do." Over the next few hours, Lila practiced under his patient supervision. He taught her basic finger positions, simple scales, and the small techniques needed to bring out the emotion in the music. Lila struggled at times, her hands sore and her mind overwhelmed. There were moments she felt like giving up, like the music was too big for her. But the pianist was patient, encouraging her, helping her see that mistakes were not failures but stepping stones. As the morning passed into afternoon, something extraordinary happened. Lila began to understand the music, not just as notes on a page, but as a language of emotion. She started to feel the rhythm naturally, her fingers moving with confidence. The notes she had struggled to play earlier began to flow smoothly, and her improvisations became more expressive. The pianist watched in awe, realizing that her talent was not just natural skill, but also an intuitive understanding of music. During a short break, Lila sat quietly, sipping water and catching her breath. The pianist came over and spoke softly, almost as if sharing a secret. "You have something very special. Most people train for years and never reach the level of feeling that you naturally have. You are rare, truly rare. Do not underestimate what you have." Lila felt a lump in her throat. She had never thought of herself as special. She was a simple woman with a quiet life. Yet here, in the company of someone she had admired from afar, she was being told that she had something extraordinary. The thought was overwhelming, but also exhilarating. Word began to spread quietly among the staff and a few early attendees. People who had entered the hall to set up or rehearse paused to watch Lila play. At first, there were whispers of amusement, assuming she was just another curious visitor trying to imitate the famous pianist. But as her melody grew more confident, those whispers turned into quiet murmurs of surprise. Her music had a depth and emotion that couldn't be faked, a feeling that captivated everyone who listened. The pianist finally stopped and looked at her with an expression of genuine wonder. "You see," he said, "this is what I was talking about. You have a voice through your fingers that is all your own. Never lose that." Lila smiled shyly, still in awe of what had happened. She had started the day nervous and uncertain, and now she felt a strange sense of pride, not in a boastful way, but in the quiet joy of discovering something about herself that she had never known. As the afternoon went on, the pianist introduced small challenges, shorter pieces, different rhythms, and simple exercises to improve control and precision. Lila embraced them, feeling more confident with each attempt. She laughed when she made mistakes, realizing that imperfection could be part of the beauty of music. She felt alive in a way she had never experienced in her quiet town, a sense of purpose and excitement that filled every fiber of her being. By the time the practice session ended, Lila was exhausted, but exhilarated. Her fingers tingled from the hours of playing, but her heart was full. She had discovered a world she had only dreamed of, and for the first time she felt like she belonged in it. The pianist gave her a warm, approving smile. "Tomorrow we will work on expression and dynamics. You are progressing faster than I expected. Keep this feeling with you. It is the essence of music." Lila nodded, her eyes shining with excitement. She thanked him quietly, feeling both nervous and proud. As she left the hall and walked back through the bustling city streets, everything seemed brighter, fuller, and alive with possibility. She felt as if she had stepped into a story she hadn't known she was part of, a tale where hidden talent and quiet courage could change everything. The journey had just begun, and Lila knew that the days ahead would be full of challenges, learning, and growth. Yet for the first time in her life she felt ready to face them, confident in the music that had quietly awakened inside her. Days passed, and Lila continued to visit the music hall for lessons with the pianist. Each session was a mix of discovery, challenge, and exhilaration. She felt as though she were stepping into a new life, one that had always existed in the shadows of her quiet town, but had now opened up before her. The pianist guided her gently, teaching her the technical skills she needed to bring her natural talent to life. But more than that, he encouraged her to trust her instincts, to let the music come from her heart rather than just her hands. At first, Lila struggled with the structured lessons. She had been so used to playing freely and instinctively that the rules of finger positioning, scales, and rhythm exercises felt restrictive. She would sometimes sigh in frustration, feeling as if the technical side of music might stifle the magic she felt while playing. The pianist, noticing her struggle, would kneel beside her at the piano and speak softly. "You are not giving up your voice," he said. "You are giving it wings. Structure will help you fly higher, not hold you down." Slowly, Lila began to see the truth in his words. The exercises that had felt tedious at first started to feel like tools she could use to shape her music. She realized that technique and instinct could work together, and the combination allowed her melodies to become even more expressive. Her fingers grew stronger, her confidence increased, and the music started to feel like a true extension of herself. Outside the music hall, Lila's life had begun to change as well. People in her town had started hearing about the cafe worker who could play like a prodigy, though they did not yet understand the full extent of her talent. She received small invitations to play at local gatherings and charity events. Each performance, though modest, was met with awe and admiration. Lila felt both nervous and proud, stepping into a world she had never imagined. Her quiet life had been simple and predictable, but now it felt full of possibility and excitement. One afternoon, during a particularly long session, the pianist paused and looked at her with a thoughtful expression. "You are ready for something bigger," he said. "I think it is time you perform in front of an audience beyond these walls. Nothing formal yet, just a small gathering. You need to experience what it feels like to share your gift with others." Lila's heart raced. She had played for herself, for him, and for a few staff members. But the thought of performing for strangers terrified her. Her hands shook slightly as she nodded, unsure if she could do it. But the pianist's calm and reassuring presence gave her courage. "You will be fine," he said. "Just remember what we have worked on, and let the music speak for you." The small performance was arranged in a local community center. Only a few dozen people were invited, but to Lila it felt enormous. She arrived early, carrying a folder of sheet music and a heart full of nervous anticipation. The pianist arrived shortly after, offering a comforting smile. "You are ready," he said simply, and that was all she needed. When the time came, Lila stepped onto the modest stage. The piano gleamed under the soft lights, a familiar friend waiting for her touch. She took a deep breath, feeling the eyes of the audience upon her. For a moment, doubt crept in. What if she made a mistake? What if she failed? But then she remembered the first time she had played in the music hall, the moment when something inside her had awakened. She closed her eyes and let that memory guide her fingers. The music began softly, almost hesitantly, but soon it flowed with increasing confidence. Lila's fingers danced across the keys, weaving a melody that was at once delicate and powerful. Each note carried emotion, telling a story that words could not express. She felt herself becoming one with the music, her fear dissolving into the rhythm and harmony she created. The audience sat in silence, captivated by the beauty and emotion of her performance. When the final note faded, the room erupted in applause. Lila opened her eyes, surprised by the strength of the reaction. People rose to their feet, clapping and cheering. She felt a rush of pride and joy, a feeling she had never known before. Tears sprang to her eyes as she realized that she had touched the hearts of strangers through her music. After the performance, several people approached her with words of encouragement. Some asked if she had studied at a conservatory. Others wanted to know how she had learned to play so beautifully. Lila smiled shyly, answering honestly that she had never had formal lessons before meeting the pianist. The story of her accidental discovery spread quickly, and she found herself becoming a quiet sensation in the local music scene. As days turned into weeks, Lila continued to practice diligently. The pianist introduced more complex pieces, challenging her to grow and refine her skills. She struggled at times, feeling the weight of expectations, but she also experienced moments of pure joy and satisfaction. Her confidence grew, and she began to understand that music was not just about technique or talent. It was about expressing herself, telling a story and connecting with others. One evening, after a particularly intense practice session, the pianist spoke with her about the future. "You have come a long way in a short time," he said. "I believe you are ready for something even bigger, a public performance where your music can reach many more people. But you must decide if you are ready for that step. It will change your life." Lila thought about her quiet town, her simple cafe life, and the journey she had taken in the past few weeks. She remembered the fear, the excitement, the moments of discovery, and the joy of sharing her music. She realized that she wanted this. She wanted to see how far her talent could go, to explore the possibilities that had opened up before her. She nodded firmly, a new determination in her eyes. "I am ready," she said. The pianist smiled, a mixture of pride and excitement in his expression. "Then we will prepare for it together. You have something rare, and the world deserves to hear it." Lila left the music hall that evening feeling a sense of purpose and excitement she had never known. The world seemed larger, more vibrant, and full of opportunities. She knew that the journey ahead would not be easy, but she also knew that she had the strength, talent, and courage to face it. Each day brought new challenges, new lessons, and new joys. For the first time in her life, Lila felt truly alive, and she knew that her story was only just beginning. The day of the performance arrived, and Lila felt a whirlwind of emotions. She had spent weeks practicing, learning, and growing under the guidance of the pianist. She knew her skills had improved tremendously, but the thought of standing before an audience of strangers made her heart pound. She had never performed in front of so many people before. Even her most confident moments during practice didn't quite prepare her for this reality. The venue was a small but elegant concert hall, filled with an audience eager to hear the story of the woman who had been discovered by chance. The air buzzed with anticipation, and Lila could feel the energy of the crowd even before stepping onto the stage. Backstage, she took a few deep breaths, her hands trembling slightly. She adjusted her simple but elegant dress, trying to calm her nerves while the pianist gave her a reassuring nod. "You are ready," he whispered. "Trust yourself in the music. Let it speak for you." With that, she stepped onto the stage. The lights were warm and bright, and the audience's eyes seemed to follow her every move. She approached the piano, running her fingers lightly across the keys before sitting down. The hall was silent, except for the soft rustle of programs and the faint hum of anticipation. Lila's stomach fluttered, but she reminded herself of everything she had learned and practiced. She thought of the first time she had played for the pianist, and the courage she had discovered within herself. She could do this. She began to play softly at first, letting the notes build slowly. The music started as a gentle, tentative melody, but soon it grew richer and fuller, filling the room with emotion. Lila felt the music move through her fingers, her heart guiding each note. She was no longer nervous or uncertain. She was immersed completely in the moment, expressing every feeling she had bottled up inside. The audience was captivated. The melody was not just technically skilled. It was alive with passion and emotion. Each note seemed to tell a story, painting pictures of hope, struggle, and beauty. People leaned forward in their seats, listening intently, caught up in the raw and authentic performance. Some had tears in their eyes, moved by the sincerity and power of her music. Halfway through, Lila added her own improvisations, the instinctive melodies that had first revealed her talent. The pianist, sitting to the side, watched with pride and amazement. He had seen many prodigies in his career, but there was something unique about Lila's ability to connect with the music and with the audience. Her performance was not just about skill. It was about heart, emotion, and the courage to let herself be seen. As the final notes resonated through the hall, the room was momentarily silent, as if everyone was holding their breath. Then applause erupted. It was loud, sustained, and full of admiration. People stood, clapping and cheering, some whistling and shouting words of encouragement. Lila's face flushed with a mix of pride, relief, and joy. She had done it. She had shared her gift, and the world had embraced it. After the performance, many audience members approached her to express their amazement. Some asked how she had learned to play so beautifully. Others wanted to know more about her story. Lila smiled shyly, answering honestly that she had never had formal lessons before meeting the pianist. Her story, the story of a simple woman discovered by chance, resonated deeply with everyone she met. People were inspired not just by her music, but by the journey she had taken and the courage she had shown. The pianist came over, beaming with pride. "You were incredible," he said. "You have a gift that goes beyond technique. You touch hearts, and that is something rare. Remember this feeling and let it guide you forward." Lila nodded, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. She had always loved music, but now she understood its true power, the ability to move, inspire, and connect people. She had discovered a part of herself she never knew existed, and she had shared it with the world. In the days that followed, Lila's performance became the talk of the city. News outlets picked up her story, and she began receiving invitations to perform at other events. Despite the sudden attention, Lila remained humble and grounded, remembering the quiet life she had once led. She continued to practice diligently, eager to improve and explore the depths of her talent. She learned that growth came not just from natural ability, but from dedication, patience, and the willingness to embrace challenges. The pianist remained her mentor, guiding her through more complex pieces and helping her refine her skills. He pushed her to explore new styles and techniques, encouraging her to experiment and find her unique voice. Lila embraced the challenge, feeling excitement and satisfaction with every new discovery. Each lesson strengthened her confidence and deepened her love for music. Through it all, Lila never lost sight of why she had started this journey. She played not for fame or recognition, but for the joy of expressing herself and sharing her emotions with others. The experience taught her that talent alone was not enough. Courage, perseverance, and authenticity were just as important. Lila also began to connect with other musicians, forming friendships and learning from their experiences. She discovered that the music world, though competitive, was full of people who shared her passion and could inspire her growth. These connections broadened her perspective and gave her opportunities to learn from different styles and techniques. Each new encounter added depth and richness to her understanding of music. As her story spread beyond the city, Lila became an inspiration to many. People admired not only her talent but her humility, determination, and the way she had embraced an unexpected opportunity. She received letters and messages from aspiring musicians, thanking her for showing that greatness could emerge from the most ordinary beginnings. Lila's journey encouraged others to pursue their passions, even when the path seemed uncertain. Despite the growing attention, Lila remained true to herself. She continued visiting her favorite cafe, spending time in quiet reflection and cherishing the simple joys of life. She understood that success was not measured by applause or recognition alone, but by the fulfillment and growth that came from pursuing one's passion. Music had changed her life, but it had also taught her the importance of staying grounded, connected, and humble. The day of her first major public performance taught Lila many lessons about courage, perseverance, and the power of self-expression. She realized that life's most extraordinary moments often came from unexpected opportunities, and that embracing them required both vulnerability and trust. The applause, the admiration, and the newfound recognition were meaningful, but the greatest reward was the discovery of her own strength and the ability to touch others through her music. As Lila looked forward to the future, She felt a deep sense of excitement and possibility. She knew that there were more challenges ahead, more stages to perform on, and more music to create. But she also knew that she was ready. With her talent, determination, and the support of her mentor, Lila was prepared to explore the limitless potential of her gift and continue inspiring others through the beauty and power of music. After her first major public performance, Lila's life began to change in ways she had never imagined. Invitations to perform at events, small concerts, and charity gatherings started pouring in. Yet despite the growing attention, she remained humble and grounded. Lila remembered the quiet life she had once led, the days spent at the cafe and the simple routines she had cherished. She knew that fame could be fleeting, but the love for music she had discovered within herself was permanent and life-changing. The pianist continued to guide her, introducing more complex pieces and encouraging her to explore different musical styles. Lila spent hours practicing, refining her technique, and learning to convey emotion through every note. Each day brought new challenges, but also new joys. She realized that growth required patience, persistence, and the willingness to push beyond comfort zones. Music had become more than a hobby or talent. It was now the core of her identity. As her performances gained recognition, Lila became a source of inspiration for many people. Students, aspiring musicians, and even ordinary individuals who had never touched a piano reached out to her, sharing their admiration and asking for advice. Lila spoke at small gatherings and schools, encouraging others to explore their hidden talents and reminding them that opportunities could appear unexpectedly. She shared her story honestly, from the moment she had stumbled into the music hall to the surprise of discovering her own gift. Her words resonated deeply, proving that determination and courage could turn ordinary lives into extraordinary stories. Despite her rising popularity, Lila stayed true to herself. She continued visiting the cafe she had worked at, chatting with the regulars and helping the staff whenever she could. She found comfort in these familiar places, grounding herself amidst the whirlwind of attention. Her modesty and humility only endeared her further to people who met her, and she became known not only for her talent but for her kindness and generosity. One afternoon, after a particularly long rehearsal, the pianist approached her with a serious expression. "You are ready for something truly remarkable," he said. "There is an opportunity to perform at a prestigious music festival where some of the world's finest musicians will be present. It will be challenging, but it is the next step for you. Are you prepared for this?" Lila took a deep breath. The thought of performing on such a stage was intimidating, but she felt a surge of determination. She remembered the first day she had touched the piano at the music hall, the first melodies that had flowed instinctively, and the countless hours of practice since then. She nodded firmly. "I'm ready," she said, her voice steady. The weeks leading up to the festival were filled with intense preparation. Lila practiced tirelessly, working on pieces that pushed her technical abilities and emotional expression to new heights. The pianist guided her every step, offering encouragement, corrections, and inspiration. Lila sometimes felt exhausted, her fingers sore and her mind tired, but she also felt a profound sense of purpose. Each day of practice brought her closer to mastering her craft and connecting more deeply with her music. The day of the festival arrived, and Lila stood backstage listening to the applause and murmurs from the audience. The concert hall was grand and impressive, filled with music lovers from around the world. Lila's heart raced, but she reminded herself to focus on the music, on the story she wanted to tell through her performance. She approached the piano, her fingers lightly touching the keys, and felt a wave of calm wash over her. She was ready. As the music began, Lila poured every emotion into each note. She played with precision and passion, weaving melodies that carried both technical skill and deep feeling. The audience was spellbound, listening intently as the music transported them into a world of beauty and emotion. Lila felt a sense of fulfillment and joy she had never experienced before. The connection between her and the audience was electric, and she realized that this was why she had worked so hard and taken so many risks, to share her gift in a way that touched others' hearts. By the end of the performance, the applause was deafening. Standing ovations, cheers, and even tears in the eyes of some audience members greeted her. Lila felt overwhelmed, a mix of pride, relief, and gratitude. She had faced her fears, embraced her talent, and succeeded in sharing it with the world. The pianist joined her on stage, smiling proudly and applauding alongside the audience. "You did it," he whispered, a hint of emotion in his voice. "This is only the beginning." Following the festival, Lila's story reached far and wide. Media outlets featured her journey, and people were fascinated by the tale of a simple woman discovered by chance who became a remarkable pianist. She received invitations to perform internationally, but she carefully chose engagements that resonated with her values and her desire to inspire others. Each performance was a chance to touch hearts, to share the joy of music, and to remind people that extraordinary talent could emerge from the most ordinary places. Through all of this, Lila remained grounded. She continued to practice diligently, always striving to improve, and stayed connected to the people who had been part of her life before fame. She visited schools, charitable organizations, and small music communities, sharing her story and encouraging others to pursue their passions. She emphasized that success was not only about talent, but also about courage, dedication, and the willingness to embrace opportunities, even when they seemed daunting. Lila's journey also taught her about the importance of mentorship and guidance. The pianist who had discovered her continued to support her, offering advice, teaching new techniques, and encouraging her to explore new musical styles. Their relationship was one of trust, respect, and shared passion for music. Lila understood that mentorship had been crucial in her development, and she sought to offer the same support to others who showed potential, fostering a cycle of inspiration and growth. As months turned into years, Lila's life remained full of music, learning, and meaningful connections. She had achieved remarkable success, but she never lost sight of the simple joys and values that had guided her journey. Music had given her confidence, purpose, and a voice, but it had also taught her humility, empathy, and the power of perseverance. Looking back on her journey, Lila often reflected on the moment that had changed everything. The day she had touched the piano in the music hall on a whim, not expecting anything to happen. That single accidental moment had opened a door to a life of discovery, growth, and inspiration. She realized that life's most extraordinary opportunities often came from unexpected places, and that courage, even in small doses, could change everything. Lila's story became a beacon of hope for countless people. It showed that talent could be hidden in the most ordinary individuals, that chance encounters could spark remarkable journeys, and that perseverance and authenticity could turn dreams into reality. She continued to perform, teach, and inspire, always remembering her roots, the quiet cafe and the ordinary life that had given her the strength to embrace the extraordinary. Through music, she had found herself, her purpose, and the ability to touch lives in ways she had never imagined. Her journey was a testament to the power of unexpected opportunity, courage, and the human spirit.